Fire Emblem Engage was released on January 20th, 2023, and promised a return to the traditional gameplay of the series. Did it live up to that promise? Let's find out together. To truly gauge the answer to this question, we have to look at where the series stood as of the previous entry. Fire Emblem Three Houses was a departure from the traditional, combat-heavy tactical styling of the series. Based out of the Academy Hub, the game heavily focused on the day-to-day lives of the students. It adopted gameplay mechanics similar to many JRPGs, with a heavy emphasis on social aspects. Seeing the friendships and romances develop between the characters was great fun. I will never forget the ballroom scene where Claude and my definitely male Byleth shared a loving dance and embrace. Fulfilling for some, these aspects left many hungering for more focus on combat, stat building, and perfecting their units. The game reached new heights of popularity, especially benefiting from the pandemic hitting just months after its release. Countless people made games like Three Houses and Animal Crossing their go-to forms of entertainment while they were enduring mandatory quarantines, furloughs from work, and extended time off from in-person education. When Engage was announced, many of these folks were disappointed that it was not going to be a return to the world of Fodlan. There were many of us, though, that were excited at the prospect of SRPG goodness and intrigued by the new Engage system, featuring beloved characters from the series past. To truly explore the quality of any role-playing game, I feel we need to look at three categories. First and foremost, we have to look at the story. Combat, especially in tactical or strategy RPGs, is also tantamount. Lastly, the graphics and performance of the game are also of import. Let's dive right into the story. Games with ensemble casts can be tough to get right. Can you offer a vast array of characters while still keeping all of them interesting and fun? Can you develop backstories, or at least a hint of them, without leaving some out for time, or on the other hand turning the game into an epic that would take hundreds of hours to see to completion? Can you also keep all of them relevant to the story and show they have meaningful experience and input to the struggles going on in the world they inhabit? The premise for the story is simple and even a bit cliched. Good dragon, bad dragon, struggle for the future of the world. This could be viewed as a downside by many, but where Engage succeeds here is masterfully telling the tales of the different kingdoms, their relationships prior to the return of the Fell Dragon and his forces, and then letting you see how the characters of the different factions interact with each other in the story scenes and in their personal dialogues with each other through the social system. Even after they join, the characters from Elusia continue to have a strained and awkward relationship with those from the other kingdoms. Also important is the main characters from each kingdom are each faced with great personal loss, or at least the prospect of it. Nobody is joining the force to fight the Fell Dragon because of America nationalism. You can feel their pain, and they eventually come to relate to one another through this pain. The danger feels present and real to both them and you, and never feels contrived or artificial. These factors lead you to wonder how things will be for the survivors if they are able to defeat the Fell Dragon and his forces. The end of the game and prologues do a good job of answering these questions and tying up the loose ends. Easily the game's greatest strength is the diversity in the cast of characters. Where else can you find an adorable, cuteness-loving femboy as a royal retainer? A dark-skinned, mid-50s veteran female knight? A femme fatale Dami-Mommy who goes from portending your doom to literally worshipping you as her deity? The unsure but brave prince? An actual characterization of Disney's Prince Charming. They even had the dancing, tarot-reading fortune teller be a lovely young man. I find the selection of possible allies to be quite refreshing, and that it allows people from all walks of life to find someone to identify with in the story is special as well. As for the social aspects of the game, it is not as robust as what was on offer in Three Houses, but I found it a welcome distraction from grinding skirmishes. Very few of the characters' lines end in what would be considered a genuine romance, but I was pleasantly surprised with the few that did. Otherwise, the characters usually end up being close friends and staunch allies, and the scenes leading up to those ends can be both heartwarming, endearing, and funny. Zelkoff and Goldmary have especially entertaining scenes with both the protagonist and the supporting cast.
Looking right at me. You have such an intense gaze. Tell me what you're feeling in this moment.
Nothing much, really.
Have I stirred your heart so little? Let me ask you again. I'll whisper in your ear this time. Has your lunch with me today brought you any feelings of contentment?
Next, we come to the all-important category of combat and gameplay. The combat itself is fairly standard fare for the series, though once again having an increased focus on the importance, amount, and style of it is refreshing. The rock-paper-scissors chart returns, with certain attacks breaking your enemy's stance with the correct weapon. This can be crucial when attacking foes in waves or when you aren't quite strong enough to take down a foe in one shot, but want to avoid the fallout of a brutal counterattack. The engage system adds a whole new layer to explore with a myriad of skills, latent buffs, and game-changing abilities. The beauty in both basic combat and the engage system is that they both grow significantly deeper as the game progresses. New recruits add new skills, new rings add entire new skill trees, and even double in depth later in the game after unlocking paralog battles. Even stronger Emblem abilities are unlocked in the late game, but we won't go into how or why to avoid spoilers. Even at the home base, there are tons of activities to partake in to level up your characters, whether for the long haul or just the next encounter. The robust training system allows you to square off against your allies and emblems themselves to level both your stats and relationships with them. This is available between combats. Not just story fights either, it can be done between skirmishes for a potentially endless opportunity to grind and level up. Working out with your friends can also give you temporary boosts as well. There's also a fun ring creation system, where one can create bond rings featuring characters from prior games. Though the bonuses, even at the highest level of bond ring, are small compared to the emblem rings, can still help flesh out your supporting units until they can mostly all have rings towards the end of the game. Absolutely need a Marianne ring? That can totally happen. The system also keeps track of all the rings you've obtained, so that checks another box for players who enjoy completionist runs. There are so many systems available in the game, I didn't even partake in them all. I never once stepped foot into the Tower of Trials in my playthrough, or played the multiplayer. These modes can strengthen the weapons you have access to while in engage mode significantly, but I honestly did not feel the need to on normal difficulty. As in other games, weapons can be upgraded and transformed into their eventual best variants. All weapon types have an ultimate, which can be won in combat from certain foes or found in chests in varying locations during story battles. Most weapons also have variants that can strike twice, knock back foes, etc. The availability of near endless skirmishes, especially later in the game, makes leveling up your units a breeze if you're willing to put in the time. These battles can also feature gold and silver variants of the enemies who drop fair amounts of gold. Their respawn, if you somehow exhaust it, can be toggled again with changing the system's clock forward a day, but I never felt the need to. Completing these battles also resets all the systems in the Somniel home base, so you can immediately return and gather all your items from your animals, have leveling battles in the arena, and dine with your friends again to strengthen your bonds. The combat, even for a new player to the series, will feel fluid and natural after just a few battles and some tutorial windows. For returning players, you will feel right at home again and should greatly enjoy the combat, even at the higher difficulties. I personally chose not to stake the lives of my units on a mistaken decision or button press, but if you enjoy the higher stakes of permadeath, playing on Classic will certainly enhance your enjoyment of the game's combat even more. I don't always find graphics to be super important to address in a review, especially of a role-playing game, but they certainly rank up there with well-optimized games like Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The visual character design is stunning and varied. Everything in the world is vibrant and colorful. I found no issues with the game's performance. It runs as well as similar games of this scope and magnitude. The music, though not exceptional, is still enjoyable. I never felt like turning down the volume in disgust with any of the tracks, and I found some of them, like the Somniel Night theme, to be rather pleasing. The voice acting is extraordinary. The game isn't fully voice acted, as some of the scenes feature the classic one or two word voicing over the dialogue, but what is voiced is incredible. I especially found the voice acting of Alfred, Goldmary, Ivy, Zelkoff, and the male Alir to be of note and distinction. There is some debate over whether male or female Alir is the ideal fit for the role, but I assure you either one will give you utter satisfaction in both form and voice acting. In conclusion, a perfect game does not exist. Yet Fire Emblem Engage flies as close to the sun as one can without burning up their wings. I played incessantly and obsessively for nearly 2 weeks. I could not put it down. I couldn't say that about Xenoblade 3 as much as I enjoyed it. I couldn't say that about Three Houses as much as I enjoyed it. The last game this compares to for me would be Elden Ring, as far as the utter wonder and enjoyment I got from playing it. My love for the characters, their stories, and their designs in this game cannot be overstated. I was brought to tears numerous times throughout the story, the ending, and in the epilogue. Even after beating it and returning just to see the Bond events of characters I was not initially interested in, I find myself getting emotional. It is too early for it now, for fear of spoiling the game for those still waiting to play it, but I almost feel obligated to make another video in the future about my favorite characters, how they make me feel, and the meaning in their struggles and relationship with the Divine Dragon. The game is truly a special treat. I cannot possibly give higher praise. It's the game of the year, and it's only January. It is definitely a 10 out of 10. If you haven't already, I highly suggest you get engaged. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, stay creepy.